Let's talk about it.
Hello and welcome back to Thicc Radio, the podcast where we talk about gaining and everything in its orbit. I'm James.
And I'm Tim, so let's get into it. Today we're joined by a special guest. He's back for round 3 and he brought his boyfriend with him. We've got Abe and Ben.
Yay!
Hi, y'all.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, my loves. How are you both today?
We're doing very good. I'm doing good.
I'm like a 7,
7 out of how much?
which is pretty good.
Out of how much? Answer
To
me.
be
Out of
fair,
how
Ben,
much?
I'm right there with you. Right there with you. I'm also at about a 7.
Just in general, 7.
I'll let you decide.
Just a 7. Love that. Love it, love it, love it. I mean, to be fair, it's the end of a week. I don't know about y'all. It's been a long week. It feels like this week has gone on for about 74 years. And
Yeah,
I'm
it really has.
very much done. So... feeling you both today. And speaking of feeling you both, that reminds me of our time at XXL together, which was marvelous.
Yes.
Memories.
How long ago was that now? How many
That
years
was
ago?
2 years ago.
Really?
Yep.
Well, lockdown has been going for nigh on 2 years, so you know.
God damn.
Yeah.
Wait, we saw each other in 2019, right? Yeah, true. Okay.
Summer of 2019.
Wow. Okay.
Back in the
It's been too long.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
Before the world ended.
Right. Before everything went to shit.
before everything truly yeeted off the face of the planet. No, but we're happy to have you both here today because, you know, here on the pod, obviously we want to explore all elements of the gainer experience. Tim and I have sat down and had a conversation about dating a civilian, and I think you guys present yet another dynamic that needs to be explored. When two gainers come together, especially when those gainers are of different sizes, I think it invites so much conversation within the community, but also the optics outside of it. I think there's a lot of interest
Right.
there and a lot to unpack. So are you guys ready? Should we get into it?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm down.
Let's go.
Ooh. Well, let's start with the cute and the obvious. How did you two meet?
How did we meet?
How much time do you have?
It's a long story. It's a very, very long
How do we abridge this storyline?
Let's just start from the beginning.
Okay, we met in 2015, which was
Too long ago.
6
No.
years ago. Well, almost 6 years ago.
Yeah.
6 years ago in about a month or 2.
Yeah, approximately.
I was in college and I was alone and lonely. No, I was. I remember sitting in my car to myself and saying, wow, I'm miserable and lonely. Because I didn't make any friends. So I vowed to myself that semester that I was going to put myself out there and join some groups and try and make some friends. And then I saw, I was looking for queer groups because, I didn't want to talk to any straight people. And so I found a flyer or something or other on the internet for the Rutgers QSA, which is the Queer Student Alliance. And so I said, I'm going to go to that. And I did.
And it just so happened at that time that I was the secretary of, I don't know. I held some kind of like role in the QSA, and I was like, well, I was there.
And so I'm sitting there in QSA feeling very awkward and shy, and in walks in the frattiest bro you've ever seen with a tank top, a backwards cap, and shorts. And I saw him and I was like, oh. My original thoughts were very PG. Originally, I was like, I want to be friends with this person.
Right. And then I asked you if you were okay.
Yes, you asked me if I was okay.
Well, okay. we were watching a very intense movie, I think, in QSA.
Yeah, that was one of the third meetings I went to.
Yeah. And I remember me looking at you and being like, he does not look like he's okay. Turns out that's just how you look.
Turns out it's just my face.
Girl,
I
same.
have resting bitch face to the ends of the earth. Anyone who's seen me, take one look at my eyebrows.
All my adult life, people have been coming up to me. Are you okay? Well, I was, and now I'm not. So thank you for that.
Oh, my favorite thing is when people come up to me at parties and they're like, "You look bored. You okay?" I'm like,
I was having a great time, but now we're here. So yeah. I'm sorry, I asked you that.
You asked me if I was okay. I found out that you. So I didn't stalk you on Facebook. I looked you up on Facebook. Didn't spend enough time to call it spot stalking. And I found out that you were a member of a fraternity on campus, and my immediate thought was,
right, yeah,
fraternity is gross, horrible. But then I found an excuse to message you first.
Right.
I messaged you about something music related because I needed an excuse to talk to you. And then you were like, you should.
I should just to quickly interject. I did not know it was just an excuse. I thought he was actually interested in the music thing.
I was.
I'm like, well,
I was. It's just also an excuse.
Right. But I didn't know it was an excuse. I was like, okay, cool. This guy's, he likes music.
Right. And so then he said, oh, you should come to the fraternity is called Delta Lambda Phi. He's like, you should come to the DLP events. And I was like, okay. And then I did. And then everything just took off from there.
So a very interesting thing to note so far is that nothing of that was anal related at all.
Well, I was curious to know then, because if things kind of took off from there, how did that come about? Is this just happenstance that you both happen to be into this shit?
It's really important to note that I am incredibly stupid. And I don't understand anything that happens to me. I feel like there should have been a light bulb that went off in my head when the biggest man walked into the room and I had an immediate response. But it was probably 1 or 2 years later before I realized what that was about. Right. This was pure coincidence.
It was, at first it was pure coincidence. I myself was at a point in my journey where I knew that I was into this, but I wasn't completely comfortable with myself being into it.
I had no idea.
Well, because at some point you found my X-rated Tumblr, and then I found yours, and it was it's the same shit. Okay, he was the same shit. Okay, cool. So that's when we had that conversation. But I honestly don't even remember. I remember because I was in the point where I was maybe I know I'm into this, but I don't feel comfortable with actually exploring it ever. At the time, I was dating someone else that was also not comfortable with that, so I couldn't explore it. And after we broke up, then I was like, all right, let's see what we can do here.
Oh, from the outside, it was like a TV drama.
It really
he was dating somebody else. I caught feelings. It was
the whole thing.
Long story.
Now I want this serial drama. I do.
And you will have it, but it will take the form of a 3 to 4 hour conversation.
3 to 4, specifically a 3 to 4 hour Korean drama.
Yeah.
just fully in Korean.
I'm talking 6 episodes. 6-episode miniseries.
Korean, and the subtitles are really poorly done. They're done by that one.
Oh yeah.
Who did 3 classes in Korean before he dropped out, and he's like, "Yeah, I can do this for a job, I guess."
I love that.
Still want to watch it. I still want to watch it. So listen, that's really adorable. Fuck you both for proving that you can stumble into genuine gainer relationships. I'm not going to curse you or anything, but I will just say I would like one myself. So just rustle one up for me since you got some spare over there, apparently. No, perfectly fine. I'm not bitter or jealous in any way, shape, or form. I'm just very, very happy for the two of you. Oh, God.
Oh, good, thank you. I would have never known that.
Jealousy is a normal human emotion. You should allow yourself to experience the feelings.
Right, yeah.
It It is. But you know what? I say this purely in jest. You know, I think it's interesting though, because I think so many of us pine over the idea of a regular relationship where that person just so happens to also be into this shit. And we said this on the civilian dating episode, Tim. Most of us have got to get to terms with the fact that we're never going to have it, because the likelihood of finding that one gainer that you connect with and they are local enough to you that you can date and make that relationship work, and it's just so many factors just like stacked on top of each other, it is quite likely that it won't happen for most people. So it is nice, genuinely, to see an example of it that people can refer to. And it is a cute story. It's a cute story about how you guys came together. So, you know, keep that up. It's good stuff. We love it. We love it.
I am really curious from your perspective. Did you consider yourself a gainer at that point? No. Okay.
Like I said, I had absolutely no idea about it. Completely oblivious to the reality of my situation.
So,
like the reason, the thing is, this wasn't a relationship where we were both looking for that. So it just kind of, I mean, I think there's a non-zero amount of that being with Abe influenced my interest, but you know, I don't think it came out completely from myself alone, which is fine. That's not a bad thing. But no, I was completely oblivious to this beforehand.
That's perfectly fair. And I mean, you know, realistically, being honest, how does this relationship, and I suppose I should ask that from the perspective of where you're both at now, how does this relationship differ from the experiences you've had dating other people in the past?
From my point of view, this is a lot more honest, a lot more open and honest than what we've had in the past. There is no need to tippy toe around things like certain kinks, certain things that we like, certain discussions that in the past I may not have had with other people. It's a thing where like we understand that we like what we like, and we share some of those things together, so we can sit down and talk about the things that we share and the things that we don't.
This is also my first relationship that's not long distance and not over the internet. So that definitely changed a lot of things about my perspective on relationships and how to navigate them.
This is not my first in that regard, but it is my first in that we have been able to actually communicate.
Yes, and also I'm not a teenager anymore.
Right, exactly. Like I am no longer 19 years old, like on Grindr, saying, "Hey, I want a hot daddy." Just and that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I no longer have the ideation to run away to California to live with my ex, who I've seen in person once.
I had the same thing, but Louisiana.
That was an interesting relationship. Relationships are interesting in hindsight.
Oh yeah, I remember there was this guy on Tumblr. And I remember he was the first guy that ever said he was attracted to me, and I freaked out so hard that my mum like knocked on my door and came into my room. She's like, "What is wrong with you?"
I love that though, like young, innocent, you know, but also yeah, I feel that.
My first internet long distance relationship was with somebody in the UK. It was mainly a well, with the same age, both gay, and we're both English, so you know that should work out, right? That ended when his dad sent me an email threatening me that if I didn't stop, threatening me to stop talking to him, to the guy.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot. I mean, you know, Tim, just to reflect on that, I mean, I think internet dating wasn't much of a thing when you kind of first started getting out and about and doing stuff. Like,
not so much. That's really evolved since, like, you know, when I started going out into the gay scene. That was there, but it wasn't nearly as prominent. Yeah, you did have to meet in person. You had to go to a dance club or a bar or a gay coffee house or somewhere where you knew the homos were congregating, and just suss it out. Went on some very odd dates. I told James about the guy that I went to high school with that came out and ended up going to prison. So there's that.
I just realized something.
Yeah.
I think I totally forgot about this and just never thought about it. I think that my ex was into gaming.
Okay. So actually,
I don't know if I'm right about this, but I think that he was, and he was really shy and awkward and kept it to himself mainly because he thought that it was gross and weird.
I love these moments.
Okay, so
how did I forget about this?
Okay, so we've actually discovered that Ben is actually the gainer catalyst. Anyone he dates or interacts with becomes a gainer. This is now fact. Abe, you can no longer have him to yourself. You must loan him out to other gainers so that they might too discover. Actually, no, you have to loan him out to non-gainers so that they discover their gaining. So be smart about it and pick people specifically you find hot, who are going to get hotter when they get fatter.
But that wasn't any part of our relationship.
No, but like
maybe he gave it to me. That's weird.
Like
that's
a virus, like we all affect each other. Like hello.
I haven't thought about this in a very long time. I think that's just unlocked a memory.
I mean, there you go.
Wow.
So not only are we spouting truth, conjecture, fantasy, and reality here on the podcast, we're also trained psychological therapists, truly just helping people to come to terms with moments in their past. And I'm really glad that we can be here with you on this journey, Ben.
I mean, Kylie Jenner said it's the year of realizing things.
Thank God for Kylie
Jenner. She didn't say that. It's the year of realizing things.
So here's a question for you guys. What has been the biggest misconception about dating another gainer that you have had to address?
I honestly, I'm not sure.
I feel like one for me is that it's always the fantasy, like the fantasy is always on. That's all it's ever about. That's not necessarily true. You know what I mean? There are moments where it's like we get in the moment. And then there are other moments where it's just like we just are people that love each other aside from the gaining. The gaining aspect does enhance it a lot because there is more intimacy in that regard. In small ways, but it's not necessarily like every single moment is like one fantasy.
I mean, we're also not the typical pairing that you would expect to have, because I feel like a lot of people want a gainer and an encourager.
That's true. Yeah.
And we're both gainers.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like you do see gainers together more often than gainers and encouragers together. I mean, I feel like the gainer-encourager dynamic, at least from what I have seen in the decade I've been on Grommr and, my own experiences, is that the encourager-gainer thing was mostly down to fantasy and sex. Whereas the lasting relationship was usually like if one gainer found another gainer. But that was my I guess stereotype about gainer relationship, is that it's just always like a fat boy fucking frenzy, and like there's just food and dick and food and dick and belly and just all the friggin' time, which I'm sure is not the case, as no relationship is like that all the time.
Right.
That does sound fun, but if it was every day, all day, I would absolutely get sick of it.
Yeah, same. It'd be very exhausting.
I was about to say, like,
doing it every single day.
Doing that for an extended period, like, I'm tired. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you all realize this? Like, I think to myself, before the lockdown, I think, oh, I'm going to have a gainer long weekend. Oh, yeah, I'm ready. Now the thought of doing literally more than a single night's effort of presenting myself and putting out is so overwhelming that I'm like, no man or experience could possibly be with this.
Oh God, one of the best parts about being in a gaining relationship is we've just reached the point where either one of us could just be say, I'm full, I don't want to eat anymore. And the other one will be like, okay.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, rather than the encourager who expects you to just keep shoveling it until you explode.
Right. unless we are in like a situation where like we want to be encouraged. In that case,
for sure,
we have that conversation. But if we're full, it's like I don't want to eat anymore. Okay,
That's okay. Straightforward. I am kind of curious. Sorry, I'm kind of curious to know, just for your sake, Ben, that kind of disparity, because, you know, I think part of this episode we really want to focus on the fact that like you guys are currently different sizes. One is bigger than the other. You've said that a lot of people will look at you guys as a couple in the gaming context and assume that you're an encourager. And I'm curious to know what that experience is like for you and how you deal with that kind of moment.
I mean, that happens less often than anything else.
Oh, good.
It's not that like people run into me and they're like, oh my God, you must be the encourager in this situation. Not to like be a bummer, but most of the time it's situations where most people will just, if me and Abe are together, most people will just look right through me. I'm not big enough for many gainers, so I tend to just sort of fade into the background in most of these situations. That's what the thing is that I run into in a relationship where we're different sizes. Is that just I'm not really, I don't know what's the word for it.
You don't fit into like a specific.
People just look through me. They don't really pay me any mind, honestly.
Which really speaks to a larger problem within the gainer community about how, like, when we talked about encouragers, how encouragers feel invisible and like you can't name a famous encourager. It's like, so if there are two gainers in a relationship and one is significantly smaller than the other, you know, by, I guess, law of averages, we're all going to gravitate towards the bigger guy. But then, like Ben was saying, he feels dismissed, and that's so wrong. I mean, like, I've said before that just because I'm a gainer, it doesn't mean that I am solely into the biggest person in the room. You know, like I find all body shapes, sizes, waist sizes, and weights attractive. So like I hate this idea of, oh, just because my boyfriend's bigger than me, he's going to get all the attention. I might as well not even be here. You know, like that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't keep me up at night. But in those instances where it does happen, it's just very much like, ugh, like this is happening again. You know, I'm also here,
right?
And I can tell that you're deliberately not paying attention to me. Like, and I know why you're deliberately not paying attention to me.
I can also tell too, and like there are moments where if it happens in person, I will actively try and include you, and then the other person will say hello and then continue to ignore. I'm just like that's not okay, because not only is that rude. Just, you know, it's, you know, like I'm here too, and now he's, yeah, it's a problem.
I mean, it's kind of saying the obvious. Like, yes, we are attracted to the larger guy. Yes, we know what we're here for, but you know, there should be a concern among us when we mistreat people in lieu of that, when our desire to pursue the larger person is to the point that we actually mistreat someone. That's a problem. And we do have a problem in the community when it comes to the way that we treat people on the smaller end of the scale, whether it is encouragers who aren't looking to gain weight and want to find their space and place to be the pursued and to be the valued, smaller gainers who are at that end of the scale currently and working to make their way up. I've talked about this repeatedly. I fucking struggle with this all the time because I was 100 goddamn pounds when I started, and most of my weight gain journey, people have been like, well, now you're average weight. And I'm like, cunt, I've gained 100 pounds. You haven't even done that.
Right.
Like,
yeah, that's a significant gain. And like,
yeah, of course.
Why we, you know, like every gainer that's super huge started somewhere.
Exactly.
SF Gut Muscle started somewhere. He didn't come out of the womb that huge. You know, he had to start right. Like, and we need to validate gaining at all stages, you know, when it's on the very high end and when it's on the lower end.
And even something like if you only wanted to gain from, let's say, 120 pounds to 200 pounds, that's perfectly valid. If you wanted to gain from 120 to 150, that is also valid. Like, you don't owe people fatness to justify your own identity, you know? And I think that's very akin to a lot of different minority groups. You don't owe people any element of yourself to justify your presence and your value. By simple fact that you exist, you are. And I just hope this is a real point that people listening can take away from this, that consider the people that you speak to and consider the people that you don't speak to, especially when you look at them and you know that you choose not to speak to them. Query why that is, and if their weight is perhaps a reason as to why you maybe don't give them your time of day, maybe consider changing that a little bit, because you're probably missing out on some incredible people first and foremostly. But yeah, so
and it's not like I necessarily even need to be desired. I just would like to be part of the conversation that's going on.
Exactly.
You know, I'm here, and you know, it's just nice to be at least included. You know, like, I mean, I also like getting compliments on my belly and stuff, but like, on one hand, I can understand why some people might not even know, because, you know, a couple years ago you could see my ribs, and I don't necessarily look huge, but I've made a lot of progress. And the thing is, I can understand why people wouldn't necessarily see that, because they wouldn't have known me when you could see my ribs.
But the thing is, that is still a lot of progress.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a lot of progress.
Right, but I can get why people might not see it.
No, of course, but that is a lot of progress.
And little starter baby bellies, they are so fucking cute. I fucking love a little starter belly. It is so adorable.
Yeah, little pooch. By the way, if you want to be pursued by someone with that little starter belly, Jeremy, we're referencing you here, Neapolitan Bonaparte. You shoot him a message with a little belly pic, that boy will be all over you, because he is very much into the lower end of the scale gainer boys who are getting there on their journey. So if you ever want that confidence boost, that's my little promo for the episode. Go and chat to her. She will let you know how dang good you look.
Well, it's kind of fun to know that people enjoy that kind of thing.
Yeah. I'm dating you. I enjoy it too.
Right, like, so I mean,
Oh my God,
at the same time,
isn't this interesting? There are people who enjoy this, and your boyfriend's like, yes, isn't that interesting?
oh yeah, you're here. Stop at that. Oh yeah, I mean, like, yes. So like, I like being included, but at the same time, I also have a mind where I'm like, you know what, Abe's getting a lot of attention. This is also really good, because if we were in potentially like a different situation or a different group of people,
I'd be the one being ignored.
He would be the one who people would just look right
and
through.
That's what happened often a lot too.
So, you know, I have these feelings of like not being included, but then I also have to temper that with being like, well, at the same time, in a different space, this would just be the other way around, which would suck as well.
I mean, that's also a really good question, because we don't just exist in a pure gaining space. We exist in a social space, which majority is not gaining. So what is that dynamic like? You're saying it's very much the opposite. I mean, is that the same thing, whether it's family or friends or just like a bear night out at Rock Bar? Like,
so for example, if we are, let's do the exact same situation, just opposite. So if we're at just like a bar that is not like a bear bar, not Rock Bar, not Ties in the city, like any of the bar for the most part, he will get attention.
Now, granted, a bit of an amendment to that. I am now too fat for those.
Yes,
spaces.
now you are too fat for those spaces. Congratulations.
Me too.
But in the past, when you were not too fat for those spaces, you did get attention,
yes,
fairly frequently. In those same spaces, people scoff at me, say ill to me, to my face, just generally be shitty people, and comment on my size in public at the bar, at the club. It was very not what I wanted. It was very weird. So I understand that when that happens, that is generally how I will be seen in quote unquote mainstream gay spaces. That is how I traverse the world as a whole. You know, as a fat person, those are comments that I get constantly. And those are comments that you haven't gotten as often as far as I'm aware.
I think it's important for people like me, especially, that we need to understand where we're coming from when we're looking to gain weight, because we never lived in a world. We weren't always in a situation where people were constantly berating us for our weight.
Right.
So we enter from a place of privilege.
Right. So it's
in the first place.
It's having that understanding when it comes to the world at large, and also having the understanding that in a space where it's like a gaining space, a bear space, that role will switch, and then you will be the one that does not get the attention, that will be ignored, and people will comment on or not comment on you as a person.
Right. And it's also important for you to realize in those spaces that sometimes that's okay.
And it's also important for me to realize in those spaces that still means that I have to make sure that he's included.
Yeah.
Because not only is he my boyfriend, he's also a member of the community, and that's important to me that he's still there.
No, look, I think that makes perfect sense. And I mean, I'm kind of curious because, as you say, your relationship has been this development, discovering the gainer aspects of what you do together. Like, I don't know if you could therefore answer this accurately, but I want to try. At what point does the line between a gainer-themed relationship and having just a standard romantic relationship, at what point do they meet and cross over and blur?
They probably already have.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there was probably a time early on, I say this on air, we started having sex before we got into a romantic relationship.
Oh yeah, you can say that. Of course you can say that on air. Yes. We were fucking a lot before we dated. We fucked so much. It was insane how much we fucked.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Those sluts. Sluts.
I feel like
huge sluts. Gigantic horse.
Gigantic, just
once upon a time not long ago, I was a hoe. And I'm admitting it.
Sometimes you just gotta own your sluttiness. I had a slut phase. Mine happened to happen while I was married, but I owned it.
I had a slut phase in the summer of 2013, and I remember this because it was the worst summer of my life. I was house sitting for family friends who'd gone back to New Zealand for the summer to, do whatever. So I had this literal full adult house to myself, and I was like, this is great. This is accessible. I'm going to bring people over. And it was just a cavalcade of creeps. Like the guy that tried to fetish, who wanted to bring the dog into the bed. The guy that tried to steal the TV, the guy that just one thing after another. It was not good. And after the 8th one guy, I was fully just like, this is a sign from God, who looked at me and said, you're a ginger and you get nothing.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Jeez. I mean, I've never gone that hard on my slut face.
No, not quite there, but
nevertheless, he did this because he was determined to prove to himself, surely someone wants this dick. Someone.
And I will abstain from the rest of this conversation so as not to appear like the biggest slut in the room.
But like you say,
you can appear like that. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I've said before.
Space.
I've said before that I've spent many nights in a bathhouse, so some of those nights were a little bit more wild than others. Sometimes chemically induced, sometimes not. But yeah, it was a very bizarre period in my life.
We were on a track.
We were on track. We weren't having sex.
Fucking.
Right. Right. Fucking. We were on fucking.
So the gaining and kinky aspects began to show up there before we were romantically involved.
Right.
They came up seemingly pretty quickly and pretty readily. And we had a lot of times where we did that kind of stuff together.
Yeah.
And so, but even then, it never felt like it was I don't know. It never felt like it was like a gaining based relationship. It was just like
it always felt like in that moment that is what it was. We were enjoying that moment for itself. Yeah.
And then we just ended up getting romantically involved. And
right.
I feel like the line has either always been blurry or just sort of never existed.
Maybe because there are also times where like we've been romantically involved and we've been like just saying things here and there that are very much gainery things. And it's like, you know.
Oh yeah, sure. Maybe it's been a while. I'll text you and I'll be like, I want to do this thing.
I mean, like, yes. Well, that like even like in public, for example, like if we're out eating, that's a big one. You know what I mean? So like that to me is a romantic situation in which we're out on a date, but it can also blur lines a little bit where it's like,
I will rub your belly in public.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Cute.
I don't know. I think it's just a natural progression.
Mm-hmm.
It's just things kind of just. I there's never a singular point. It's just. It's gonna happen. I don't know.
It's fair.
It's hard to say. Everybody is different. Every situation is different. It depends where you go in, what your expectations are, whether or not you do have expectations in the first place.
Right.
Yes, I think a point on managing expectations, which I swear I bring this up almost every episode, but managing expectations. Yes. This is another segment we'll introduce where James reminds you to manage your expectations. Ding. And it's just me going, manage your expectations. Fuck. Like,
you can do better than that.
To say a lot. I like to say a lot, manage your expectations, but also lower your standards. And when I say lower your standards, I don't mean like drop them onto the ground. I don't mean like drop them to the ground. I mean just like, you know, there's probably something in your head that you really, really want, and you are never going to get it.
Right.
So it's important to go into new circumstances and situations with a capacity to be open to things you either weren't expecting or didn't know. Or
the way I read that is that there will never be a Mr. Right exactly how you like. No. You know, there is no cookie cutter Ken doll exactly who I want kind of person.
Yes.
So you gotta beware that.
My mother was the person who introduced me to the phrase of, James, there is no such thing as Mr. Right. There is only Mr. Right now. And
right.
Weirdly enough, I don't think that was her way of telling me to be a slut, because I don't think she approves of behavior. But I think that was her way of saying, you know, the only man that you should be dating is the one that's right for you where you are right now.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Which is true of all of us. You know, at some point, you know, we will be different people. We will shuffle off the mortal coil. But the only person you should be concerning yourself with is that the right person or people, if that's the case, for that moment. And again, just
there's a reason we all have exes.
Yeah. But yeah, managing those expectations. Like, if size and weight is such a requirement for you, probe that and be like, if you need someone above 200 pounds, why 200 pounds? What is it about 200 on a scale that does it for you? If I weigh in at 199, am I going to be so abhorrent in your eyes? Am I literally imperfect even though I'm a pound off? Like,
yes,
probe yourself.
Right.
Ask the question, ascertain why it is you think and feel that, and just do some personal work.
I feel like we all took a break to drink water, to like cough. Oh my god.
I have a scratchy throat and I'm dying slowly, so you know, I'm just
same.
I'm sitting here. I'm sat here like I am the model podcast host. I will not falter or fall. I'll gladly be the Winston Churchill of podcasting, with all the fat and the jowls.
We shall eat them on the ground. We shall eat them in the air.
We shall eat them by the sea.
The Battle of the Burger is over.
Yeah, the Battle of Battenberg was actually just him trying to get into a packet of Battenbergs.
I don't like those. Is that a bad thing to say right now?
No, because Battenbergs, they've got like that marzipan, like aniseedy.
Yeah, I don't like
Not
that.
nice. No.
No. I'll eat an entire thing of Marks and Spencer's profiteroles by myself.
I do love those.
Oh my goodness.
Those are good.
I will say something about the UK that I find really problematic, just because we don't have this in Australia, is like the classism that exists in food. Like in Australia, we have only ever had two food providers, Coles and Woolworths, and they just bounce off each other. Like, who's going to be cheaper? Who's going to be cheaper? And then, like, some amount of years ago, Aldi came in, and that was fine. Aldi, like, it was a bit of a hype, like, ooh, Aldi doing something. But that was it. Right. And that if you wanted fancy foods, the meats and the cheeses and the whatever else that you want the fancy of, you go to a butcher's or you go to the dairy, which was a specialist shop where you would pay a stupid amount for a fresh cut slice of meat, but that was why you did it. Whereas here in the UK, it's like there's a hierarchy of quality in the food, and it's based on the cost of the different food chains. So down at the very bottom, you do have Aldi and Lidl, and then above that...
Hold on, wait, I'm sorry. Aldi's at the bottom in the UK?
I would say so.
Wow. It's at the bottom in the US too. Come on.
I've never gone to an Aldi.
It's like, I think the only thing that's a step below Aldi's is Save-A-Lot. Like,
I've never gone to a Save-A-Lot.
Well, Save-A-Lot is all the food that bounces off the back of the truck.
Oh, never mind.
So, like, I would say at the bottom is like Aldi, and Lidl is under Aldi. Let me be clear, but you know, bottom tier stuff right there. Then I think you've got like Morrison's, and then above that you've got Tesco, which is where I'm at. You know, I'm accessing my white privilege here to go truly middle of the pack. Like, that's where I'm most comfortable. Just I don't want to be poor, but I can't afford to be bougie rich, so I'll just hit middle of the pack, and maybe one day I'll earn my way up into the M&S echelon of food shopping.
But I love M&S. I really do.
So skipping past the bullshit in the middle, you've got Tesco's and Sainsbury's, and then you've got M&S and Waitrose.
So,
yes, Waitrose at the top.
Funny story about the UK. When we went to the UK, so for anyone who doesn't know at this point, he's from the UK. I'm not.
That's me.
Yeah, that's him. He's from the UK. So when I went to the UK to see like him and his family, I really wanted to go to Tesco. That's all I wanted. Don't ask me why.
It's a novelty for these Americans.
It's a novelty. We don't have Tesco here. And I kept hearing about Tesco. And I was like, I want to go to Tesco. The exact same way that you want to go to Walmart for some reason. I want to go to Tesco.
Okay. I get it now.
Yeah.
I really want to go to Walmart and buy the whole chicken in a can.
I don't even know if they
American thing.
I think they do. I think they still do.
Yeah, if you think there's like a hierarchy in the UK for food, just wait until you see America.
Oh God,
we've got
really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Aldi's is at the bottom in the United States. Well, Save-A-Lot, Aldi's, then Mark's, Walmart, Piggly Wiggly, and then you get up to like the huge ones.
I don't even know what some of those are.
Oh, that's all in the South.
Okay, we're on the East Coast, so we've got our Walmarts, our Targets, our Acme's, our Trader Joe's, our Whole Foods, all that stuff.
I need this conversation to hit pause because Tim.
Piggly Wiggly.
Oh, Piggly Wiggly.
I have heard of Piggly Wiggly.
Stop. I knew it.
Stop. America? Stop. Piggly Wiggly?
Did Abe ever tell you? Did Abe ever tell you what our favorite brunch spot is called?
Do I know this? Oh, yeah. I think I do. Yeah.
So when we're feeling particularly peckish and excited, we go to a brunch spot in Summit called the Committed Pig.
It's Committed Pig.
A pig that's been thrown into the asylum. Little hooves sticking out the bottom of the straitjacket.
Oh my god,
The
Lord,
committed
kill me.
pig.
And
Oh
what
my
did the
gosh.
t-shirt say?
The t-shirts, oh, I wanted a t-shirt, but they didn't have my size, ironically. The t-shirt in the back is like the logo of the committed pig, and on front it says pig life in like big capital letters. And I wanted a shirt, but
And I want him to buy one and turn it into a crop top.
There is the famous borough markets in London. Around the back where all the trucks park, there is a butcher's called the Ginger Pig. So
It's you.
It's me. So every time I like, a gainer comes into London and they're like, oh, do you want to walk around? We'll go to London Bridge. We'll wander like South Bank and come Dackbit and go through borough markets. I'll be like, actually, there's something I have to confess. I actually own a butcher's, and they're like, really? That's so cool. I'm like, yeah, let me show you. And I just point to the sign like,
Stop.
this is mine.
It's hilarious.
That's fantastic.
That's so good.
It's too good an opportunity to pass up. So I kind of stipulated on this before. I think a lot of gainers say they also want another gainer to date, but most of us don't. I'm kind of curious, what's your guys' perspective on that? Like, why do you think it is that most gainers don't end up dating other gainers?
I think there is something to be said about the fact that everyone feels very spread out. Like it's hard to meet someone already when you're gay, queer. It's even harder if you're finding someone in a very specific community.
Yeah.
Especially when it seems like a lot of people that may be interested in that community are either passively interested or are still not comfortable with themselves in their own involvement.
Yeah. Definitely something to people who, like, I think I said this recently to you, Tim. There was a guy that reached out to me, and it was clear from the tone of conversation. It was very flattering to say, look, I look up to you and I just want to ask your advice on gaining. I was like, sure, absolutely. But it started to circle the drain a bit, where it was sort of like, I just don't know if I can do this. And I'm like, then don't. Oh, but I really like it. Then do it. Oh, but I'm uncertain. And I'm like, nah, get off. I'm completely disinterested.
What they probably didn't disclose to you is that they actually are into the whole, like, that's sexy to them, is to like do the banter back and forth of, oh, I don't want to do this. Oh, but you should. But I don't know about, that's really what they were getting off on.
And, I find that so, it actually angers me. And I don't mean to say that to like put people off, but, I think for those of us who, to put it out there, it started off with all the privilege of being so skinny and having those moments and understood themselves enough to say, we're going to get rid of this in favor of this and put the work in, and we do the thing and we live our lives authentically. You put a lot of effort to create a lived reality that you want to celebrate. Like, I'm honored to call each and every one of you a friend, and to know that I have local friends, and to know that I have access to potentially a lot of gainer sex. I have that life here, and I made that happen for myself because I wanted it. And so I think there is that disparity with people who kind of just want to dip a toe in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They see you having the good time and they're like, oh, I want to do that too. You could show up to an event. Like, there are Grommr happening now. Go to a Grommr. Like, make some friends. Like,
quick aside. If the person that plans the events for New York City Grommr is listening to this, please reach out to me. I don't know when anything happens, and I really like to know. I feel like I should know.
Or for New Jersey, we should do a New Jersey one.
Yeah, she's different from New Jersey. But I agree, 100%.
I think it's kind of similar to regular dating in that a lot of people don't know exactly what they want yet, or exactly what they're looking for, and it just creates difficult situations. Gaining is a very personal journey for everybody, and so sharing that with somebody else is not always the easiest thing to do.
And I made this point on my Instagram story a few days ago, like, that's true and that's cool. I don't want to be involved at this point in, like, my own journey, I'm comfortable with myself to the point where I would like others that match that energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I feel comfortable and they feel comfortable, and we can just live our lives and enjoy whatever moments we're trying to create together. If that is not where someone is on their journey, that's perfectly fine. They will figure it out at their own time whenever they want. I don't need to be a part of that, and nor do I want to. That's where I am in that regard. And I feel like that's also why it's difficult for gainers to date other gainers, because like people are different parts of their journey, and you know.
So we do have a listener question. They ask, be honest, is regular gainer sex all it's cracked up to be? And I think that what they mean by that is having gainer sex regularly all it's cracked up to be?
Yes.
Short answer. Yes.
No further elaboration.
Yes, absolutely. No further elaborations. Yes, it is exactly what it's expected.
Yes, it is, because there is so much less immediate expectation on what's going to happen. When, say, for instance, you are hooking up with somebody or setting up a play date with somebody, you should have a conversation about what you want to do, what you expect to happen, what you don't expect to happen, safe words, whatnot, limits. When you're with somebody who already knows those things ahead of time, and you can kind of just do whatever you like, it flows a lot easier. Yes. And if we're both feeling it, we can get more intense. If we're both sort of like regular, then it can just be a bit, it makes its way into the more like vanilla sexual activity, kind of it sort of casually makes it in there every so often. It is nice. Yes. I'm not sure how it is for you, Benjamin, but in my mind, it's gotten to the point where like certain things that are definitely like gaining, stuffing, bloating related to me are kind of vanilla at this point.
You guys,
because it's like this is
so
just
kinky that now you're like
there's like,
and James and I are just turning green with envy over all this. I think it's the fact that we already have established expectations. Yeah. And so that conversation does not need to happen every single time. Right. And if it needs to happen, we just have it. And it's not really that big. Yes, exactly. And these things can happen with anybody, really. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I like that. There's hope for me yet. The Grommr cruise in January.
This is not us sitting here being like,
look at us.
Wow,
we're like amazing.
We're so incredible. Like,
right.
No, but I mean, you guys kind of have the golden ticket, honestly. I mean, not only did the romance evolve very organically, but you both came to the realization that you were into the same fetish, and that happened organic. I mean, that's kind of what people write fiction about that, like that's the kind of thing that stories are written about, gainer fiction. So yes, don't diminish the fact that you guys do have a great relationship, and that we can all be a little bit jealous of that. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it was a wonderful coincidence. It took work
also. Oh yeah. Oh my God, yes.
It took work. These things take work.
So we've been dating now for almost 4 years.
Yes.
Like it's been work.
But it all started before we even made it official.
Yeah. So it's been work, but the work is always worth it.
Yes.
So I did want to ask, what is the biggest piece of advice you would offer another gainer looking to find other gainers to date?
The same advice I give anyone at all is communicate.
Oh my God, that's the biggest one. Know your boundaries, communicate, learn who you are, and learn what the other person. Talk about those expectations. There you go again. The expectations. Talk about the expectations. What do you want? What do they want?
Be okay with your expectations fluctuating.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it is just all about good communication. You need to be able to talk to each other if something's wrong, if something's right, if something is difficult.
Right. Also, here's a thing that I usually say to everyone, but I think it hits strongly also if you're a gainer. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to find someone else.
Right.
Just let yourself enjoy having a life, being a person, meeting people either casually or non-casually, however you want to do it. Just don't put pressure on having a partner and having that be the goal of your life. Just live your life.
If you're in a relationship or you're single, it's still your journey.
Right. It's still your
belongs to
journey.
you. Even if you're with somebody else, it is still your journey.
The only difference being with someone else is that it is now your journey and their journey, sharing a moment in each other's journey. But it's still your own individual journey. So you gotta work on yourself.
And real life, unfortunately, is not like fan fiction.
But God, I wish it were sometimes. Like,
don't we all?
It would be nice if shit was a bit easier. But hey ho. So, ladies, I think that brings us to the end of our little episode. Thank you both so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you for having us. I appreciate this.
Where can the listeners find you online?
So for me, you can find me online on Instagram at sneakyseabear, no spaces, no nothing. You can find me on Grommr at sneakyseabear as well. On Twitter, you can find me at seabearabe, or you can find my more explicit stuff at Bear Growler, no E at the end, all one word.
If you want to look for me, I'm on Instagram at artwithghosts, underscores between the words. I'm on Grommr at wideanglelens, and I am on Twitter. Well, we'll skip my regular Twitter. I don't tweet. My NSFW Twitter is at Harley Sterling X.
Well, thank you, ladies. That is a wrap for now here on Thicc Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave a good review. If you like this episode, the podcast, or just us in general, share it with your friends and encourage them to tune in. As always, you can find me on Grommr, Instagram, and TikTok at stannnum, and Twitter and YouTube at stannnumg.
And you can find me on Grommr as Orpheus. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok at thiccymouse. And of course, you can find more of what we've talked about today on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Patreon at Thicc Radio. So until next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Let's talk about it.
Thicc Radio is a Patreon and Enter app podcast produced by Stan and Thiccy Mouse.
Mixed and mastered by Stan.
Our artwork is provided by Lokitu.
Our theme song is provided by Body by Cream.